forever. The moon and stars to rule by night, for his mercy endures forever. To him who struck Egypt in their firstborn, for his mercy endures forever. And brought out Israel from among them, for his mercy endures forever. With a strong hand, with outstretched arms, for his mercy endures forever. To him who divided the Red Sea in two, for his mercy endures forever. It is in this text, there is one common thread that you hear through it all. For his mercy endures forever. You may be seated in the house of the Lord. It is here in this Thanksgiving, this season of Thanksgiving, what we call the holiday season, which starts with the holiday of Thanksgiving. This holiday, though celebrated mainly in the United States, is actually celebrated in other countries, but we base ours on historical fact of the Pilgrims when they first came over, and there was a famous feast of some 90-something Native Americans, some 30-something Pilgrims sat down to have a feast to thank God for the bountiful harvest that they had received. Here they were in a new country, a new place, and their land was overflowing with goodness and greatness. But they realized that it was not of their own doing. They realized that it was the grace of God that had brought them safely over the seas. It was the grace of God that had provided the rain and the sunshine that the crops may grow. It was the grace of God that it now had yielded this bountiful harvest. And therefore they wanted something to celebrate and recognize how good God had been. And they wanted not only to do it selfishly or individually, but they wanted to call others, in that they had a time of sharing, that now that God had been good, they wanted to share and include everyone. It is something that when God has blessed us, that we can be like the host and call our friends and call everyone to gather together. Families all over the country will get together, and they will have cousins and grands come in and come together to celebrate this bountiful feast, to show the harvest that God has provided. It is in the same spirit that, as we know that when God blesses, everybody's not happy about your blessing. Amen. It is in that same spirit that Thanksgiving has not always been a holiday in this country. It is in that George Washington recognized Thanksgiving, but there are other presidents who did not recognize it. One of the reasons, because it recognized God. It recognized that man was not the source of his own blessings. It recognized that though we have power, the truth of the matter is, without God, we are powerless. It is in that same spirit that Abraham Lincoln instituted that there shall be a special holiday, and we shall recognize that the fourth Thursday of every month shall be a Thanksgiving, that we take time to recognize God and thank God for his bountiful harvest. And it was therefore instituted as a federal holiday. So it is the fourth Thursday of every month that we recognize that God had something in doing and getting us where we are. It is there that the fourth Thursday, the government says, hey, recognize that you didn't do it by yourself. But if we're Christians, we shouldn't have to wait to be told when to give God thanks for all that God has done. Amen. Because as a Christian, you should know that every day should be Thanksgiving, because we realize each day we are only here because of the mercies of God. The truth of the matter is that we shouldn't have even woke up this morning, but God's mercy has allowed us to see another day. To realize that the only reason we're here, the only reason we have what we have, is because of the mercies of God. Have you ever thought about how many heart attacks, diseases, and illnesses God had to hold back just for us to be here today?
Thank you, Lord.
It is only through his mercy that we've been shielded, we've been protected, that God has allowed us to be here, not only to be here, but he has graced us with a bountiful harvest. That we may not have all that we want, but he has supplied all of our needs. So therefore, we do not have the right to walk around complaining, the right to walk around saying what I don't have, but to give God praise for all that he has done.
We thank you, Father.
To realize that, God, you've been good to me. As a Christian, we ought to walk around with a joy in our spirit that cannot be denied, that even when it seems like things aren't going right, but I've got a joy inside of me that lets me know that it is God is still blessing me, because the truth of the matter is, no matter how bad it gets, it could have been worse, but for the mercy of God. When we realize, God, you've been there. God, you've been there through every step. You've been there through every journey. Lord, and I just want to say thank you. It is in this text. It is in this text that now the Hebrew looked, and in the first portion of this verse, they just began to give God praise for his mercy. They just began to give God praise for who he is. First three verses, they just say, oh, God, let's just give you praise just because you're God. It is in the first three verses they began to give God praise, to realize, God, we could be nowhere, have nothing, but it was only through your mercy that we're here. And Lord, we just want to say thank you. They looked back on their life, looked back on what their journeys, and had to say, hold on, God, you brought, somebody missed it. If you look back on your life right now and realize the truth of the matter is that we could have been taken out so many times, but aren't you glad that the mercy of God shielded and protected you even when you didn't even know him?
Thank you, Lord.
To realize that lets us know that, guess what? That everybody has a reason to give God praise, because to realize that, God, you protected the righteous and the unrighteous. When the rain falls, it doesn't just fall on the righteous, it doesn't just fall on Christians, but when the rain falls, everybody gets blessed. So therefore, no one has a reason not to give God God praise.
Yes, Lord. Thank you.
The first verse says, "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good." It recognized the goodness and the grace and the graciousness of God. God, you've done it, and no matter what you do, if you don't do everything I want, but guess what? You've been good.
Yes, Lord. Thank you.
It recognizes the submission to God to realize that, God, you're perfect in your will and your way. Have you ever thought about if God did everything the way we wanted it, how messed up you would be? Have you ever planned something, thought something, got it all right, you figured out what you were doing, and all of a sudden it was blocked, couldn't happen, you didn't know what was wrong, you were having your pity party, and all of a sudden looked up and another door opened that was better than the one you wanted to go through, and you had to stop and say, God, thank you for the door you closed?
Thank you, Lord.
Because the truth of the matter is, if God did everything the way we wanted it, we would have been so messed up, we wouldn't be here right now. But somebody knows, but God, in your awesomeness, in your wonder, God, I just thank you for your mercy to realize, God, I should have been the one who was sick. God, I should have been the one who was shot. God, I should have been the one in the car accident. But God, somehow or another, your mercy has surrounded and protected me. Your mercy has brought me through this way. I didn't deserve it, but God, somehow or another, you watched over me through the day and through the night. And Lord, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Father.
To realize that you watched not over me, but Lord, you watched over my family, watched over my children when I couldn't even reach them. But Lord, you watched over them in the midnight hour. Lord, you brought them home safely. And Lord, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
I tell you, as a Christian, you don't even have the right to walk around with your head down complaining about what you don't have, because you realize, God, it could have been worse, but you've been so good to me, because the truth of the matter is I don't deserve anything.
Thank you, Lord.
I don't deserve it all, but God, you blessed me in spite of me. And Lord, I just want to say thank you. They realize that the truth of the matter is, though they planted the seed, but God, you had to provide the rain and the sun, because the truth of the matter is, every seed does not grow.
That's right.
Farmers right now complain because though they planted the seed, though it looks like it comes, but all of a sudden a rainstorm comes and washes the seed away. You may not have planted a seed as in a farmer's seed, but you planted some seeds, some things you wanted to grow, but God has watched over. God, thank you for watching over the seed of my child, God. God, watching over the seed of my harvest, God. God, watching over that financial seed that was planted. God, you watched over the seed.
Yes, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
You sent the sun and the rain even when I didn't think it was working, but Lord, somehow or another you worked it out. And God, I just want to say thank you for your mercy endureth forever.
Yes, yes, God. We thank you.
Truth of the matter is, one thing I found out in growing, that there are no perfect parents, there are no perfect husbands, there are no perfect people, but somehow or another God blesses us anyway. Could you imagine if God held us accountable for every mistake we made?
My Lord.
Could you imagine if God actually gave us the punishment we deserve? I'm not talking about the stuff everybody knows about. I'm talking about that stuff that you thought you got away with. That stuff that nobody knows about. That stuff you thought was a secret. But if God knows everything, sees everything, guess what? There are no secrets from God. So God knows what you did, when you did it, where you were, and yet he blessed you anyway.
Yes, hallelujah. Thank you.
So I can't help but God give you thanks, God, because God, I realize I could not have made it without you.
Yes, Lord. Thank
He comes back and says, God, I give you thanks because I realize you are the sovereign God.
you. Yes.
God is sovereign in that God does not have to ask my permission. God is sovereign in that there is no one equal to God.
Amen.
God stands alone. He is Jehovah. He is the only true God, and therefore God stands all by himself.
Yes,
And yet God stands by himself in his omniscience, in his omnipotence, and his omnipresence. In that God knows all, God is all powerful, and God sees all, in that God is forever present.
Yes.
So if God stands alone, and if God knows all, God has all power, God is forever present, then therefore, God, I give you praise just for being God, because the truth of the matter is, no matter what I go through, but God, you know exactly how long to keep me there. You know exactly which road to take me through. And God, you know exactly how to get me through. And God, you walk with me while I'm going through it. Somebody ought to be excited. And to realize that God, if you're God, God says, guess what? Stop complaining about what you're going through, because God, I realize everything I'm going through, it may not feel good, but guess what? It's working for my good. So God, whatever I got to go through, God, I've learned to give you thanks and praise for every obstacle, every problem, because I realize, God, you are working it out. Somebody missed it. Because I've learned, God, your mercy endures forever. See, David said, God, don't let my enemies judge me, but God, you judge me, for you are merciful. In other words, God, whatever I got to go through, God, put me through, because I realize, guess what, that you have the power to bring me out of it.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
And not only will you bring me out of it, but God, while I'm walking through it, you'll walk through. Come here, David. David said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For why? Because you're with me and you cover me, your rod and your staff. In other words, God, as long as I'm going through what I'm going through, don't you know God will get in the midst of it, and that he'll walk with you, and that you don't walk alone. Come here, songwriter said, precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. The only reason I can stand through whatever I'm going through is because, God, you're there holding me all the way, walking with me, that when I get weak, you're there. I said, wait on the Lord.
Thank you, Lord. Yes, Lord.
No matter what I'm going through, but I wait on the Lord, for when I wait on the Lord, shall mount on wings like eagles. Somebody right now, you thought it was hard, but I feel my wings coming on. Want to give up, but I feel my wings coming on. So when I'm just about to give up, but God, you're with me, and your mercy just give me wings.
Yes, Lord.
Said I began to praise him, because God, you are God, and you are God alone. And I realized whatever you're doing, I don't have to be in agreement. You don't need my permission. But Lord, let me just be a part of whatever you're doing in this season.
Yes,
Lord, whatever you're doing in this season, Lord, remember me. For Lord, if you make me a part of your season, it doesn't matter my struggle. But Lord, I know you are omniscient You know exactly what the season should be.
Yes, Lord.
You know exactly how much rain to send.
Yes.
You know how long to let the sun shine. Even in my sickness. But Lord, I realize you'll get in my sick bed with me. In my time of grief, Lord, you'll be there to hold my hand. You see, when I look stuck and don't know what to do, but Lord, like the children of Israel, I know you'll make a way out of no way. Is there anybody here? I just stopped by to tell you that I know sometimes it gets hard. I know sometimes you feel like you can't go on. But can I help you? You see, your attitude will determine your altitude. So when you feel at your lowest, stop crying. Stop your pity party. But begin to give a praise party to realize, God, your mercy endureth forever. Because the truth of the matter is, you see, it could have been so much worse. But Lord, thank you for what you held back. Lord, thank you for walking with me. Lord, thank you for your hand of protection. Because the truth of the matter is, Lord, I realize that some people said I wouldn't make it. Some people said I couldn't do it. But Lord, you've been there through every trap. The truth of the matter is, there were 1,000 on one side and 10,000 on my right side. But Lord, you made it so none came nigh my dwelling. Lord, you've been there. And Lord, I'm not worried about the noisome pestilence that come in the night. You see, I've learned no matter how dark it gets, but Lord, your light is always around me. Lord, it doesn't matter if the enemy comes by the night, but Lord, you're my protection in the time of trouble. You're my strength when I'm weak. So Lord, I give you thanks because your mercy endureth forever. It's your mercy, Lord, no matter how bad it gets. But Lord, you surrounded me. So I give you thanks when it looks like I don't have. I give you thanks when it looks like I do have. I give you thanks in the noonday. I give you thanks in the morning. I give you thanks in the midnight hour. Because Lord, your mercy endureth forever. And if you do nothing else,